Okay, so it's Tuesday. It's unapologetically Black unicorns as usual, but we're getting ready to hop into the holiday season. So usually on Unapologetically Black Unicorns, I'm talking about mental health stuff. I have, guests who talk about mental health or, anything, as I say, cool to advance human existence. So today I have somebody really cool here because why? I am home and I am home with my father. So generally you all hear me say, oh, my dad said, well, my dad told me. Well, now you get to hear from my dad. So, hey, Dad.
Hi, I'm not a phantom after all.
No.
I'm your dad.
Yay.
In Philadelphia.
Yay. So here we are in the same place.
Quite. It's quite unusual because we're bi-coastal. You're in California and normally I'm in Florida, except that we're both here at our family home in Philadelphia today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right before the holidays. So this is a time, I think the last time I did a little special holiday episode, it was on Thanksgiving. And I was talking about, what's to be thankful for? I was a real downer. Sorry. But this time, why don't we talk about, I don't know, maybe the holidays, or what do you want to talk about?
Well, I thought I would talk about something happy, but also I'm toying with a question that's been posed to me by you and others, whether I like being here in Pennsylvania versus being in Florida. And my answer has been quite candidly that it's been a mixed situation. Both have its spices and its virtues.
Mm-hmm.
And the virtue here is that this is our family home in Philadelphia. But at the same time, there's Florida with its sunshine. And what does this song say? Is it true what they say about Dixie, that the sun shines all the time?
Mm-hmm.
It almost does.
Mm-hmm.
So in a word, I'm enjoying both the East and the West Coast this time. Mm-hmm.
You're going to get into politics. Just go for it, Dad. Really. I know you're really holding back. You don't have to hold back.
Well, I'll confess that we've talked about the fact that there are some problems in Florida that I find a little bit difficult to contend with. And I'm talking about the politics of the state, mm-hmm. relative to our reaction to the virus, anti-masking attitude. Mm-hmm. And I'm especially concerned about this politicization of the so-called critical race theory, mm-hmm. which I think is being used to frighten parents with a straw man that really doesn't exist. And it's unfortunate because it might lead finally to public book burnings with politicians telling people what should and should not be taught in school. Mm-hmm. When I think that really we should be encouraging our teachers to teach history that is objective, demythologized, social science and social studies and civics, not about making us patriotic, but about making us informed citizens who want to be involved for the good of the country.
So that's why you're an unapologetically Black unicorn.
Well,
did
really?
you? Yes, you didn't even know that, did you?
I had no idea.
Yeah,
in fact, I just wondered where that name came from. Now I know.
Yes.
I'm partly to blame.
Yes, you're partly to blame, and I am your offspring. So I guess, what do they say? The fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. Is that the saying?
I've heard that.
Yeah. But when you were talking about critical race theory, one of the things that's happened in mental health is that people have sort of glommed on mental health with critical race theory because there's a concern that in the school systems, they're teaching kids about bullying and mental health and suicide prevention. And, folks are saying, no, we don't want our kids taught that. That's the parents' job. Mm-hmm. So I think, there's all of this, well, who gets control over what? Who gets to control what information that goes to our students. And so it's really interesting to me that, as usual, somebody's glommed something else on related to mental health with something completely different.
Quite. And it's all about riling up people, playing on their emotions and variously for the wrong reasons. And I think if we're going to truly be the democracy that we say we are and the shining city on the hill that we say we're going to be, we need citizens who want to be involved and who understand our history. Because there's truth in that expression that those who forget history are likely to repeat it. And therefore, if we don't teach an objectified, non-mythologized history, we're going to have citizens who will make the wrong decisions about such important matters like voter suppression, why redistrict voting areas and that sort of thing. So indeed, I don't think that we should put the burden on parents to do what teachers are trained to do. And indeed, the best of the world would be to have teachers and parents collaborating for the better good of their children and then for the country.
I love that. Wow, the collaboration. So we got into politics because I knew we had to. I didn't want you to hold back. I got a sense there was this is the holidays.
Well, at this my age, I can't hold back.
Yeah, well.
I must use my time judiciously. And holding back now at this age would not be a judicious use of my time.
And here we go. Okay, well, I'm glad you're using your time wisely with me. And I'm glad that I'm here because I haven't seen you for 2 years. And that is because, of course, the pandemic and travel and being very cautious, especially as African Americans who are being doubly, triply hit by the COVID and the pandemic. So I'm glad we're together and, just to be open and honest and unapologetic. So people know, I arrived on the anniversary of, my mother's death and, your best friend, your wife, so forth. And so it was really, really impactful for me to be here during this time. I think it's so important.
Well, you've just given me a cue to a segue when you mentioned your mother, because I remember her actually in tears, so happy that she had a little girl when you were born. And I didn't know she was so much committed to wanting a girl, having had a son already, your brother. And that reminds me, can I talk a little about the day you were born?
Go for it.
Go for it.
This is embarrassing, but go for it. I'm an open book.
Anyway, we were in West Germany. And quite candidly, I don't think the German nurses had ever seen a Black child before. So when I came into the OB/GYN ward to see you, the nurses were lined up in the hallway, and I heard one of them say, "Ist der Vater?" in German, which means, "Is he the father?" And I answered with the nearest thing to, "You better believe it." Jawohl, ganz bestimmt, ich bin der Vater. Yes, you're damn right, I'm her father.
Yeah.
But that was a glorious day. And
you sure it wasn't because I had a unicorn horn and no, it was because I was a Black baby. Okay, got it.
Well, what I think was most striking was that you were born with a full head of hair, with a perfect Barbara doll hairdo. And the nurses were quite intrigued and waiting to see who the father was.
Wow. It's very interesting that you bring this story up. And I actually do like hearing the story of my birth because I'm not going to remember it. You all have to recount it for me. But I know many times when I was struggling with my own mental health, especially with deep, deep, deep depression. And I don't think Mom always knew exactly what the struggle was, but she could tell that I was struggling with understanding purpose and meaning and why I was put on this earth. I think she understood that part. So when I got to that point where we would be talking and she could tell I was struggling, she would tell me about how much she wanted a little girl, how much she just prayed for this little girl, wanted this little girl, and how excited she was when I came out, and that she was crying and she was so excited, and basically saying that I did have this purpose here because I had been prayed into the world by her.
Yes.
So it was the thing that would help me remember, even if I couldn't see what was going to happen, if I didn't have the hope in the moment, she was reiterating to me that I have this purpose. I might not know it yet, but it will come to fruition, whatever it was.
Yes.
So I really love that she was doing
your
that.
mother was very prescient, almost prophetic. And I share with you that we were both concerned that we moved so much. We were such vagabonds with you and Carl growing up, with your having been born in Germany and then living in the Far East in Korea and traveling throughout the world and the country with us. But we thought that maybe that was a negative attribute or aspect of your bringing up. And I'm not quite sure yet if we Not doing you harm.
No, you did me no harm. As a matter of fact, mom apologized to me. How many parents will apologize to their adult children about something they felt like they didn't know was the right or the wrong thing? And so one time mom said there were two things she apologized to me for. One of them was not being able to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show when I was a teenager, because when she finally saw it, she was like, oh, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was. There was nothing in there that you wouldn't have known or couldn't have seen. I'm really sorry I didn't let you see it as a teenager. And I'm like, what? Okay. And then the other thing was about the moving around. She had a lot of concern about moving around. We had to move every 3 years, and it was hard for me to make friends or keep friends the way that other people do because we were moving so much. And I told her two things. I said, one, when I came out of the womb, by the way, did an instruction book follow? I don't think so, right? So no instruction book. No. And then I said, secondarily, the moving around actually makes me so adept at being able to meet other people where they are, not have people meet me where I am in particular, meaning I love learning languages and studying different languages. I love meeting different types of people. And I think because I've had that quote unquote worldly experience, for lack of a better way of putting it, I think it makes it much easier for me to be able to understand and meet people from all different cultures and walks of life. So I think it was actually quite a blessing, even though you might not recognize it in the time. So
indeed, while it was happening, we did not recognize it. As a matter of fact, we worried that maybe being in a household where, two languages were being spoken, Nanny in Germany was speaking German, and I joked about her telling Kyle, "Schluck unter Kyle," swallow Kyle, because he wouldn't swallow his food. And in Korea, we're talking tonight about foods that we ate in Korea, and how Mrs. Kim would talk about pok and pop and that sort of thing. And we thought maybe that would be confusing in terms of not knowing that one language was yours and one culture was yours, and indeed one race. But at least we came to understand that we're actually all members of the human race.
Yeah.
And that race, as we talk about it today, is more a figment of our imagination than it is really a pigment of our complexion. You know what I'm saying?
I do. At the same time, I think that did become sort of the difficulty of, I think I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old. I came into the backyard and I was playing something and you were doing whatever. I came out of the backyard into the library or whatever. And I said, "Hey, Dad, am I a Negro?" And you shot up to kind of look out at, like, who's out there asking, like, was somebody out there making fun of me? You didn't know what was going on. And I think you hesitated to answer the question. This was, okay, I'm aging myself, but let's just say it's between the 60s, somewhere in the 60s. Let's just say that. And I think you were worried about, well, how should you answer? So you hesitated. And when you answered, you said, "Oh, yes, you're a Negro." I said, "Oh, okay." And then I just picked up the ball and went back outside, right?
That's what I remember very clearly. That was in Kansas. And when you asked that question, oh my God, am I ready for this conversation with this little girl?
Yeah, no.
And then when I said, "Well, yes, you're a Negro." That's what we were called then. When you said, "Okay," and we went back to play as though nothing was different, I said, "Oh my God, what a blessing."
Yeah, but I wish it were that easy, kind of, continuing to grow up, because people did make fun of me because of my accent or lack thereof, or because I had long hair, or, "Oh, you're not Black enough," or "Are you really Black?" Like, what does that even mean? So I think that was, one of those struggles, I think. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people go through that kind of thing. So,
it's common among children who were born of parents who travel, living in different parts of the world,
That's why I don't like calling it being an Army brat, because that's one of the terms people will use for, kids who grow up in the Army life who travel, just like, PK kids, preachers' kids, people who are in the missionary kids, the same sort of thing, this sort of expatriate kind of life. But I don't like calling it bratty. I think of it more as maybe it was more of a global nomad, because the experience wasn't bratty per se. It was tough, but I'm glad I had it for sure. So.
And it served me well too. And I've said numerous times, when I think about that little quote unquote colored boy who grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, and I picked up a letter from Governor Rendell the other day, and I said, damn, he wrote me a letter. I never thought I'd be getting a letter from a governor, and then another letter from another, et cetera, et cetera. And well, they're experiences that I could not have scripted. And I say so very frequently to my former students, just be ready for the opportunity. You don't know what the future holds, and that the door will open for only those who are ready to receive the visitor. So I think we've been fortunate, blessed, to be ready to receive some of the positive experiences we've all had,
I 1000% agree. And you know what? I think this is a great place to say, I love you.
Wow.
It's my daddy. You all have heard from my dad. You're going to hear more from him because he's written a book. And we're going to talk about that in another episode. But I thought this was a nice time for us to get on and share the cheer with everybody before the holiday season.
Wunderbar.
So thank you.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Oh, I just love talking to my dad and having that great conversation with my father, especially around the holiday times. So I want to wish our listeners just a wonder-filled holiday season. And drop us a line. Let us know what you're doing during this holiday time, especially to find that piece of joy in your life.